What's going on, everybody, and welcome once again to the Agents of Helm. Today, for AoH at the movies, a few of the agents got an opportunity to go catch Straight Outta Compton, the biopic about the rap group NWA. So, before we jump into the full-on review and really kick things off, I'm going to introduce my co-host for the night. As usual, we have the beautiful Johanna.
Let's regulate some G-Funk.
You just had, I knew she was going to get that in.
I just had to. I had to.
And last but not least, we have our fearless leader, Joe.
What's up, people?
So obviously, as you guys know, Straight Outta Compton came out last Friday, which was August 14th in theaters. I don't know if they came out world. I don't know if it was a worldwide release or if it was just a domestic release. And it topped the charts. It actually broke a record. It broke the record for an August release of a rated R film, which was previously held by. Do you know what movie, Joe or
For a
Johanna?
rated R film in August?
Yeah, rated R film in August. Straight Outta Compton.
Give me a hint of how long ago was it?
Um, I want to say within the last 20 years.
Within the last 20 years, a rated R movie within the last 20 years for August? I don't
Go ahead, go
know.
ahead, go ahead.
Sliver, I have no idea.
Johanna, would you like to take a guess?
Above the rim.
Not so much. Well, actually, I don't think Above the Rim was in the last 20 years. I think Above the Rim might have been 20 years ago, over 20 years ago.
Oh
Uh,
man.
Actually, according to the numbers, it was American Pie. American Pie actually
Oh.
Oh,
held.
wow.
Yeah, American
It came
Pie.
out like in 98,
Nin-
98 or 99.
Yeah,
Yeah.
99 held the record, and Straight Outta Compton took it down this week. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. What did you guys think of the movie? And I know Johanna, you still haven't gotten a chance to see it, so whatever input that you may have, you can feel free to jump in at any point. So I guess we'll start with Joe. What was your first thoughts about the movie? Well, before we get into that, what were your first ideas? What did you know about NWA, or you an NWA fan prior to walking into the theater?
I will say at the time, obviously being the elder statesman of this trio, uh, I was, let's just say, late teens, early not teens, uh, when NWA was starting to, make its way. Um, so the movie starts in 1986, right? So I'm already in high school at that point. So uh, yeah, I mean it brought back a lot of memories. But to be honest, back then it was not a huge West Coast fan, let alone an NWA fan. Back in those days, it was all about, to me, East Coast stuff. During the late '80s and stuff, listening to Big Daddy Kane and so Eric B, Rakim, all those other guys took up my time, yeah, as opposed to listening to NWA. But obviously, I mean, they made their way east. Yeah, I just really wasn't that into it, but I knew who they were and I knew what was going on, but it didn't resonate with me at the time. But I did appreciate it. I really didn't start getting into it actually till probably when Dr. Dre broke away from NWA, and well, actually the group just broke up. But when him and Snoop got together for the Deep Cover soundtrack. So talking like '92 is when I really started to get into it.
Yeah, I think for me, actually, I was really young. So when they came out in 1988 was when their first album, Straight Outta Compton, was released. I was only 8 years old, so I wasn't able to listen to that type of music. I wasn't able to find that type of music. I mean, I know I knew people, I had cousins and stuff that listened to it, but I wasn't really listening to it myself. It probably wasn't until right around the time of the Rodney King beating, and when that video finally surfaced, and I still was relatively young around that time, but to see you kind of live in your own. And Johanna, you can probably even attest to this. Is like, you're living in your own bubble for a lot of for a lot of your life, and you're not really aware, especially when you're that young, about like what's really going on around you or what's going on. Like, not even. I mean, you're aware that there is a West Coast, but if you're aware at all about what's going on there, at 10, 11 years old, you're well above. You're well above everybody else in terms of your awareness. But so for me, yeah, it wasn't until like the Rodney King video and like asking my parents questions about that, and asking my parents questions about like where was this taking place and this rioting and all this stuff, and what was going on, and and then starting to in asking questions about it is how I recognized that there was this whole rap scene in the West Coast that I had no idea about, and so I started really paying attention um, to what was going on over there and really watching videos, and I think that that was where my first introduction to both Ice-T's Cop Killer and NWA's Fuck the Police came around. Even though both of them had been released previously, like they kind of came back around to the forefront after that started happening. So that was my first introduction to NWA. Johanna, how about you? Do you have any background with NWA? Any like cool stories about like the first time you heard them?
um, I actually got into NWA in terms of knowing about them because I really love Dr. Dre a lot, a lot, a lot, and I like um I like Good Day by um by Ice Cube
Right.
because I often when I have a good day I really like listening to that song. But actually, you know, growing up, I didn't really have like a lot of frame of reference about music, so I just kind of listened to whatever. So I guess like I did listen to West Coast hip hop. But yeah, I really didn't know that much about them, which is why I'm really sad I didn't get to watch the movie because I know about a lot of the different members, but not about the group itself.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a so for you, I mean, for me, I'm like I said, I grew into a huge fan of NWA. So they're probably in my top two or three in terms of my favorite rap groups ever. And so for me, coming into the movie after like really like going back and listening to all of their stuff, like it was interesting just to see some of the things that I knew about them play out, and see some of the things that I did know about them that was not in the film, and kind of question why it wasn't there and things like that. But for somebody like you, who you said you don't really know a lot about them, the group itself, like when you do see it, it'll be very, very um, informative for you and interesting to see, to see how this group came about. And I'd love to see this for other groups too, because clearly, if it's done in the same manner that this one was done. So what we'll try to do is we try between Joe and myself, we'll try not to spoil anything for you. but but I will note to the fans, this review may include a couple of spoilers here and there, but nothing you probably can't read about on Wikipedia because again it's a biopic. So Joe, what were your feelings about the movie?
Oh, I really enjoyed it. It was like stepping into a time capsule and just like reliving, brings back a lot of memories of just like the late 80s, early 90s. Um, thinking about, just Boys in the Hood, the song and the movie. Um, yeah, I have to say the actors did really well. Um, you had I forget the actor who played Dr. Dre, um, and obviously Ice Cube's son who plays Ice Cube, and the actor who played Easy. I thought they all did pretty well, and it looked very believable. Um, Fortunately, the other guys of the group, like Ren and DJ Yella and all, they didn't, and the DLC, they didn't really have big roles in the movie, outside of being in the like studio and stuff like that. Um, but I thought the movie did well in bringing you back and showing you the the challenges and the struggle that they went through in order to form the group. Well, that's really caused the group to form, and then the internal struggles within the group that start to come up when you start to mess with people's money. Um,
Exactly.
you know, uh, everybody's tight until you start playing with people's money. Then then things start to get out of hand, and you just realize how relatively short, compared to other groups, the short amount of time they were actually together,
Right.
to really turn out that, really that one album. And then right after that, the group pretty much disbands, and then they go off on their solo careers for the most part. Well, Eazy-E never really got that, but uh, as for Dr. Dre and Ice Cube, you know, they
Right.
managed to do well for themselves.
Right. Right.
And,
Right.
and and I did like what I did like with League is they brought in, Suge Knight was actually pretty prominent in the movie, his
Mhm.
character anyway. And I just wonder, and I kept thinking during while I'm watching the film, how much of the film did they take liberties with? That's what I started thinking about a lot. Like how much of this is because I really haven't never read anything about it. I mean, you just hear things, during that time, and then obviously afterwards all these stories, and I just want to see how much of this, how much liberty did the film actually take, and did they make up stuff? Because usually in all these biopics, they take certain liberties in order to keep the story moving. So I just want to know, like, where those liberties were taken in the film, if any.
I mean, to me, and probably the first instance of me seeing any of this stuff was VH1 did a really good documentary about NWA. It's entitled NWA: The World's Most Dangerous Group. It's actually available. You could watch it on YouTube right now if you wanted to. And it pretty much chronicles like the life of this group and tells their story in a similar way that this film does. Um, so going off of that and then to the movie, I mean, not a lot of stuff was taken out of the context in terms of like how they got together and how they actually formed the group. But there was definitely, and I remember mentioning this to someone after I said see the movie, like there definitely muted some of the violence that surrounded this group. Like you got to see some of it in the film, but not a lot. And and they were definitely one of the more they were one of the groups that incited riots and incited violence at their shows. A lot of violence surrounding them. A lot of what I mean, there's clearly stories about Suge Knight and like his influence on how Dr. Dre left the group and went over to Death Row Records, and there's mentions of it and there's scenes of it in the film, and it seemed like a really, I won't say an amicable breakup, but it definitely wasn't as tumultuous as the real life situation became, because there was a whole beef between Dr. Dre and Eazy-E that never shows up in the film.
Yeah, I
But
was
it
I was thinking
happened.
that same thing.
Yeah, I mean, because if you listening to their albums later on, like there's a lot of Eazy-E references in Dr. Dre's The Chronic. That
All you
album,
have to all
bunch
you have
of
to do is watch what was the video? Not a G thing, the other one. What was the one where they have like Easy E panhandling on the street and stuff like
oh
that?
yes, I remember that one.
Oh my God, what is that video? How does it not come into me? Uh,
Yeah, it's I mean, while yeah, there was definitely plenty of stuff like that was kind of not they didn't they just chose not to include it. And I think it was all in the sense of telling the story, right, and moving the story along so that you showed the beef between Ice Cube and the group after he had defected. but and that was definitely a big part of their story, a big piece of what NWA was all about. And then they took so rather than dwell on everything that was associated with them, in the interest of moving the story, which still was a 2.5 hour movie, um, they really they might have cut a few things out that they probably could have kept in. I mean, if you let Peter Jackson tell the shit, it would have been a full on epic, and they would have broken this up into three parts, right? So, everything would have happened. It would have been three and a half hours, and we would have gotten the story. We wouldn't have gotten to the end of the movie until 2020, basically, is when we would have seen the last film. Um, but I mean, yeah, I love the movie. I thought it was great. This was probably one of the movies I was waiting for. This was definitely one of the movies I was waiting for the summer. And I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, I was really surprised at some of the voice acting, and like just how well these actors captured their characters and their roles. Corey Hawkins, who played Dr. Dre. Quick side note about him: we're going to see him, apparently, checking his Wikipedia page. He's been cast to as a recurring character in season 6 of The Walking Dead, um, so he'll be there. Um, but he did really well as Dr. Dre, and I mean, Easy E's character, who's played, I'm trying to get the information now. He was played by Jason Mitchell, not an actor I was familiar with, but definitely looked and sounded and played the role extremely well. Some very hard hitting and emotional moments in the film for him. Of course, O'Shea Jackson Jr., who you mentioned as Ice Cube. Um, and like you said, MC Ren, who's played by Aldous Hodge, and DJ Yellow, who's played by Neil Brown Jr., both actors that I've seen in other things before, but they just didn't get the opportunity to really flex their muscles or really show how important those two members were as a part of the group. I was glad that they were in it at all, um, but I really thought that Paul Giamatti stood out well as Jerry Heller. Like I thought Paul Giamatti really put his foot in that role. I was really happy to see him and see what he did in that movie as well. So I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, I just wonder if the agent was really. I mean, I know the agent's important, but if he was really that prominent in their lives, I mean, I don't know, but
Oh, he was huge.
yeah.
That's
Go ahead, Yana.
Oh, I was going to say that that's actually a criticism that I saw on the internet of it is about how making the role, and I haven't seen the movie, obviously, that his role in in the movie kind of made him seem he kind of became kind of like a white savior figure almost that it took away from the agency of the band of the group and that kind of just didn't sit well with people that he had such a prominent role in the film.
I do find that interesting because I mean there were a couple of scenes, and I don't know if they were done for effect, but there were a couple of scenes where the group is getting either harassed by police officers or they're getting, and then he kind of steps in to kind of take up the fight for them. It's like I kind of see where people come from with that. I mean, if it's rooted in reality, if that stuff really happened, I don't really mind.
No, that's my point. I don't know if it really happened, so I just don't. You have Paul Giamatti. He's like the big name in the movie, right? To be
Mhm.
honest, he's the big name.
Right.
And in order to make sure that he has enough screen time, that they expand the role of the manager. Uh, I'm fine with it. I don't really care either way. It's just something I was thinking about while I was watching it. Was his role kind of expanded because he's like technically he's the big name in the movie.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't think it took away from the movie. I still rather enjoyed it very much. But there was like I was waiting for that scene where they show in the trailer where he pulls the bag out of the bus and it's full of guns. He's like, "What are you guys doing?" And that scene was not in the movie.
Yeah, it didn't make the cut.
It didn't make the cut. Uh, so I was like, after the movie ended, I was like, I guess I'm not gonna see that scene. Maybe it's in the after credits. Who knows? But
Yeah, well, I say through the credits, it didn't. I didn't see anything in the
No,
after.
I didn't. I was joking. I did not stay through the credits. I saw like the initial credits, and then I was out. Uh, I was straight out the theater. There you go. Um, but I will say this much. I mean, they made a huge deal about the beef with Ice Cube and the remaining members of NWA.
Hmm.
And it seemed the movie seemed kind of Ice Cube centric.
Hmm.
And I know he was involved in it. I believe as a producer or something, right? Um,
Well, he wrote most of
okay, so then he's very involved.
yeah
Um,
he wrote most of the lyrics for them in the
oh
first.
yeah, yeah, I know he wrote most of the lyrics. I thought you were gonna say he wrote some of the film or something like that.
Oh yeah, he's
Um,
definitely an executive producer on the film.
yeah, that I knew. I didn't, but it seemed like it seemed Ice Cube centric, almost being told from his point of view, but not quite.
Hmm.
Uh, so the beef between Ice Cube and the remaining members of NWA was was a big part of the movie. Um, and like you mentioned before, I was kind of disappointed they didn't get into the beef with Dr. Dre and Eazy-E, which led to the song that I was thinking about earlier was "Fuck with Dre Day,"
Okay.
where him and Snoop are singing, have the song where they're pretty much making fun of Eazy and having him look like he's panhandling on the street and dancing for money and stuff like that.
It's hilarious.
Um, which was on the Chronic was probably my one of my two favorite songs off that album, right?
Mhm.
That and Nothing But a G Thing, baby. But yeah, I wish they had made more of the Dre and Easy E conflict, but they didn't. And then when you skip to the end and Easy E finds out he's sick and he's at the hospital, they kind of like fast forward through time. It seems it seemed like Ice Cube didn't come to like the end, like when he was getting ready to die.
Hmm.
Um, and the same thing with Dre. Like they, just got there like just in time before he passed away, because they kind of like kind of zoomed through that. As soon as they found out he was sick, then the movie kind of just jumps ahead and he's kind of like on his deathbed.
Well, that's actually really accurate in regards to like how fast he went from being here to being gone. There was I believe pretty much from him being diagnosed with HIV to him dying. I think that spanned like a little over a month because he was sick for and they kind of indicated it in the film with him like starting to see the bouts of the coughing and the illness and stuff like that
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, they hinted towards it.
over the
Yeah.
course of time. Yeah, but he didn't. Yeah, but he definitely obviously this is tale of men of color. Didn't go to the doctor, didn't get himself checked out, never really paid attention to any of that stuff, and just kind of went about his life and um, did not pay attention to his health until he passed out. And then it was when he finally was taken to the hospital because he had passed out is when he found out, and by then it was already far too gone. And I believe that the turnaround from that was less than 2 months between him finding out and him dying. So when he gets sick, they might have sped that along in the film, but I think that was the right pace because he was not around for much longer.
Oh
When,
no, I was fine with it. What I was really talking about was the fact that it seemed like Ice Cube and Dre didn't come for like, let's say did last 2 months, right? Seems like they didn't show up for like the first like 7 weeks.
they probably didn't. They probably didn't. When you have a lot of, and this probably happens to a lot of people. Get busy with life or get busy with whatever the hell else you got going on, and you get a phone call that this guy is sick and that he may not make it. Maybe may have actually taken a week for them to get there. I mean, it doesn't show that they might have been doing something else. Like,
Plus,
I mean, the thing was like right before he gets sick, they had all agreed to get back together and do another album,
right, right.
right? And then he had the he had uh, MC Ren and DJ Yella at his house, and they were waiting for Cube and Dre to show up,
Mhm.
and then he passes, then he collapses and he ends up in the hospital.
Mhm.
So it's just like, did Dre and Cube not show up that day?
They just not show up to the hospital.
Or just not show up to the hospital? I don't know. But anyway, uh,
What were you gonna say, Johanna? Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say that people are uncomfortable with illness and death. If we're going to get into the psychology of why they didn't go see Eazy-E until that point.
yeah, I don't.
That could be as well. I mean, I know myself. No, I know myself. I'm uncomfortable. I'm actually uncomfortable in hospitals. I don't really like going to hospitals if I can avoid it. Um, just don't like the atmosphere of a hospital. No one's ever happy in a hospital.
Yeah, it's just not a cool place to be, especially when you're the patient.
Right. Exactly. Um, but yeah, so I definitely would recommend it. But the other thing I would recommend, and I wanted to touch on before we actually finish the review, the the memes that this film created over the course of the last couple of weeks. It seemed like it came out of nowhere in terms of just the amount of
Oh,
people being straight out or whatever.
yeah, God, I was getting sick of it.
It seemed like it came out of nowhere, and it just hit this. I mean, this humongous. And to me, I think that might have fed into the popularity of the film and why it may have done so well in its opening weekend, because even if you didn't know anything about the movie, those that picture and those memes were blasted across every social media site. And so I really think that they lucked out there with the amount of free publicity that all of those memes were giving the film. What did you think about the memes, Johanna? Were you able to see them like on your social media feed throughout the last couple of weeks?
The memes of
The straight
uh
like straight out of
Straight
Harlem.
out of
oh yeah,
her.
that is so fucking stupid because it's usually people who live in like the suburbs or live in some place that is really not straight out of anything the way that NWA meant it.
Right.
It's very, very, very annoying. Although I did use it, I think as our listeners know, I'm writing a book. I think I did use straight outta in the book after I saw the memes. But the book is set 100 years in the future, so I'm hoping people take it as oh, it's a throwback, not no.
I mean, but that's my point. Like, it's you're able to use it. It was interesting to me. It was interesting because a lot of people, I mean, so many people, like in 2015, that type of publicity would have never been available to them in 1986 when they first, or 1988 when they first released their album. And just the fact that in 2015, that type of thing could garner so much attention over the course of like a 2 week span. It was attached to everything. I thought that was just an interesting method of marketing, which
It,
I wonder where it started.
it's also like it just shows how universal in some ways NWA have become in terms of like the various terms or the various songs that they've come up to. Now people are, they see them as their own almost, and
Mhm.
it's not just rap fans anymore. It's not just, people quote unquote from urban areas. It's like everybody knows these songs and they know straight out of Compton. So like that idea kind of spreads to other people and social media.
Social media definitely puts things on the map, and it helps people relate to NWA now. I did think that the timing of the film and the timing of the release of the film was actually perfect, just given the temperature of things happening with the police
Hmm.
and young men and women of color in our nation right now. And I thought that was I thought that F. Gary Gray, the director, did a very deliberate job of pointing that information out, like pointing out that this group was all about free speech and all about speaking out against um, things like racial profiling, police brutality, and all of that stuff. So I thought that was a very interesting part that he did take a lot of time. They did take a lot of time focusing on that as a topic. So just to finish up, as far as the film is concerned, you have an appearance by pretty much everyone in the hip hop in the 80s 90s hip hop realm. There's an introduction. There's a Snoop Dogg reference in there. There's a couple of other notable hip hop likenesses in the film. And Joe mentioned earlier, um, Suge Knight got a huge he got a pretty prominent role in the film, and you see his impact on the group as well. So go out, check out Straight Outta Compton. It's probably the best biopic that I've seen in a very long time. It's definitely I'm definitely glad that it came to theaters. It didn't go to VH1 or any of those other stupid networks. But it's definitely better than Aaliyah's movie, and better than the TLC biopic, which wasn't horrible, but still nothing on par with what was going on here. So you get a chance. I know Johanna's going to see it soon.
Yes.
Go and support this film. It's really good. It's really interesting, and you might learn something. And really take something out of it. I hope you guys do. So, before we cut out, were there any other things that you guys wanted to talk about? Any other topics? Any other discussion items that you guys wanted to bring up?
The only thing I'll say is that now that we've got the NWA biopic done, maybe we can get a Public Enemy one, or something East Coast.
You really want to see 2 hours of Flavor Flav?
Yeah, boy.
Look, the last half hour can be Flavor of Love.
Oh,
and it can have this really sad music, like the music of sad desperation, like under it, as we see him wind a clock around his neck and.
Outside of Flavor Flav, Chuck D is pretty deep.
He is. You probably
And
a movie of Chuck D.
I would like to hear, or see that on screen, how they came together and all that stuff. So I think somebody can make that happen.
Johanna, is there any group that you would like to see a biopic made of? Can you think of one?
Yes, immediately. The
Knife?
Red Hot Chili Peppers. The Knife. I mean, who knows what the fuck they do? I feel like all they do is drink tea and listen to ambient noise. I'm talking about Red Hot Chili Peppers. That would be amazing. They've had such a crazy ride. They've all been addicted to drugs. Member died. Another member made really weird music, which I love. I think that would be really, really cool. I think they would be the best ones.
I think that movie goes something like this. Hey man, my name's Anthony. Call me Tony. Hey, I'm small. I'm like a flea. Call me Flea. Let's make a group. Let's get a group together.
So disrespectful, Joe. So disrespectful.
I don't know what you're salty about with the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I'm just messing around. I like the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I think they would be. Yeah, I mean, I've seen really good music biopics as well. Control, which is about Joy Division, was amazing.
Is that a documentary?
No, it's not a documentary. It's a biopic. It's called Control, and it's about the lead singer who has epilepsy, and just he has an affair and he doesn't know how to deal with his life, and at the end he kills himself. But I was actually going to make you guys watch it, but
I'm surprised. I'm surprised no one's done like a Michael Hutchinson, the lead singer from NXS. I don't know if you guys remember them.
Oh,
I'm
that's a
surprised
really sad story.
I'm surprised no one's done a movie about that. And
Yeah.
actually, no one's done a movie about Kurt Cobain. I know they did the documentary, but nobody's done the movie about Kurt
They
Cobain.
have, they have. It was called think it I think Kurt and Courtney is the name of it. But then there's another one that is about Kurt Cobain's life, but they don't use his name, kind of like Marvel and DC.
Uh,
Um, yeah, no, there's definitely one out there. But
okay, yeah, I never heard of it
I
all. But
I would, however, highly, highly, highly recommend Montage of Heck, which I was also going to make you guys watch,
Mm.
which is the documentary about Kurt
I mean,
Cobain.
I will. I no, I would watch that, but I'm waiting for the LL Cool J biopic where LL Cool J will play his teenage self and his adult self.
We'll find a way to do it. We'll find a way to
He
do it.
will. He
They're
will.
gonna use CGI to get rid of the muscles and just make him skinny again, and then this would be 1985 LL Cool J, and then as the years progress, they'll just have to CGI more muscle onto him.
Hey, they
Until
did
they
it with Arnold. They did it
Absolutely.
with Arnold.
You can always do it with Arnold. Well, I think I would suggest I would actually agree with you, Joe, and go with an East Coast group, and my selection would be the Wu-Tang Clan. I'd love to see a biopic of that, of like how that whole thing formed and and what they were.
that's a good one.
I would love, yeah, I'd
Yeah,
love to see something like that. I think that'd
yeah,
be
because
awesome.
you got everything in there, right? You've got the RZA who's become a huge producer and does tons of soundtracks and is making movies
Hmm.
somehow. Method Man, right?
Yep.
ODB,
Yeah, the crazy. Hmm.
uh, Ghostface Killer,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, I mean, there's
So
so many
you've got at
personalities.
least four people you can really hone in on, and then the rest will be like you know background.
Yeah, exactly. And and it would be, I think it would be really fun. I think it'd be a lot of fun, and I think they, I don't know if they'd be able to tell all the stories the same way they couldn't tell all the stories with NWA, but I think they
There's
could
so many of them in the damn group, man. So
exactly, exactly.
and a Run DMC movie, Crush Groove. I'm not counting that. Like
I
a real
was
Run
just about to say
DMC
that.
movie.
I was just about to say Crush Groove wasn't enough, Joe.
No, that's not a real story. That was something to push record sales.
Very true. So everybody, check like we said, check out Straight Outta Compton. Let us know what you guys think. Send us a message, send us an email, post it on our Facebook page. We'll definitely have this review posted up on our Facebook page as well, so you can listen to what we think about it. And maybe Johanna can write up a a little blog about what she thought about it after seeing this and hearing our review as well. And then she can post that up on the Facebook page so people can see what the after effects of our review did for her perspective.
Yay.
So for Joe and Johanna, I am Malik. We are the Agents of Helm. Have a great night. Uh, get out to the movies and have a good time. And we'll talk to you soon. Peace out.
Straight out of time.
Sweet.
See, that's a quick